Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ice Cold Takes podcast. I'm your host, Joey DeMeglio. The New York Rangers have gone back and forth wins and losses over the last 4 games. They lost to the Washington Capitals this week before a bounce back win, a quote unquote bounce back win against the Ottawa Senators last night. Great performance by Igor Shesterkin. And that seems to be the theme over the past few games. The Rangers look like they've reverted to their old selves the last 3 games against the Ducks, Capitals, and Senators. Two of those teams, not playoff teams in 2023, 2024. So, yes, early in the season, very concerning. So much so that Peter Laviolette has put the lines in a blender, both offense and defense. The lines have been completely jumbled at Saturday's practice, which is today. If you're listening live here on YouTube, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Stay up to date with all Rangers content with Ice Cold Takes here. So we'll start with my immediate reaction to these line changes. So if you haven't seen it at Saturday's practice, the Mika Zibanejad line has already completely been broken up. Not even just a swap of centers. All players, Zibanejad, Kreider, Smith, they're all on different lines now. So the first line is now Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, and Alexi Lafreniere. And I agree with that decision. I think that has been a long time coming. I just think that in the past few games, the the Trocheck line, French toast line, if you want to call it that, has been completely caved in. And I'll give you the stats for them. The last 2 games, Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere at 5-on-5 have been outshot at 5-on-5, 7-21. Expected goals for percentage is 19.90. Pitiful. Scoring chances. This is really telling. Scoring chances when that line is on the ice in the last 2 games at 5-on-5. 5 scoring chances for to 24 against. 24 scoring chances against when that line is on the ice in 2 games. High danger chances. 0-4, 8 against when Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere are on the ice. Very concerning. I previously said that if they're providing you offense, sacrificing the defense just for that line because it is Panarin is fine. But now they're not even providing you that much offense. I say that, and Alexi Lafreniere and Panarin hooked up on the first goal last night, 3 minutes into the game. So it was a good start for the Rangers last night. But they really tapered off after that. Mind you, I was busy working, so I didn't get too much of a chance to see what was going on in the game. But every single time I turned my head to look at the TV, the Senators had the puck in the offensive zone, and Shesterkin was diving, sprawling to make a great save. That is not a recipe for success, as we've seen previously with the Rangers. You cannot win by relying on goaltending, and that's what it looks like the Rangers have been doing the past few games, especially against the game against the Ducks. Jonathan Quick was incredible. He was stopping everything. I believe that was a 2-1 or 3-1 game. But, I mean, against a team that you should be dominating, like the Ducks, I mean, that should look like that game against Montreal. I don't know what's going on. Early season woes, kind of looking like how last season did. You know, the Rangers started off really strong last season. 5-on play was solid. The defense was great. And then, Fox gets hurt last year. And then everything after that, it just seemed like the Rangers it looked like they were starting to play down to their competition. But the defense just wasn't the same. The offense wasn't the same. And I don't think the Rangers ever made a full recovery last year. It's looking to be trending in that direction right now. And I think Laviolette is noticing this, and that's why he's hitting the button to switch up the lines here. So again, Zibanejad line completely broken up. Panarin, Zibanejad, Lafreniere, that's the first line. The second line is now Will Cooley, Vincent Trocheck, and Riley Smith. So interesting. The Cooley Hito Kako line still yet to give up a 5-on-5 goal against. They're the only line in the NHL among qualified minutes, according to Mike Kelly, that has not given up a 5-on-5 goal against. They've been great. Last night, not so much. The stats back that up. They weren't that good. Honestly, none of the Rangers had much success last night, except for the fourth line for whatever reason, and the Miller Fox defensive pairing, and that was broken up as well. And I'm very upset about that. I'll get into that later. But interesting, the Peter Laviolette is promoting Will Cooley, who's looked great in my opinion. I don't think it was necessary to make this change though, because that third line has been great. But I will say he kept Heedle and Kako together on the third line and moved down Chris Kreider to that line. So that line, the third line, is now Chris Kreider, Phil Heedle, and Capo Kako. Now, I've been a proponent of putting Trocheck and Kreider together because they've done it in the past. It's been a little while. They did it with Gerard Gallant a couple seasons ago, and it worked out for them. But I guess the way Will Cooley is playing, the physical style also would probably mesh well with Trocheck, who does like to have a physical edge to his game as a two-way center. Also, putting Kreider down to the third line is something I've hinted at, suggested, thrown out into the ether on this show plenty of times recently. Maybe not in the last couple episodes, but previously, I've thrown out that idea. Putting Kreider out there on the third line, you still give him the power play time. By the way, the power play one looks unchanged, the same units, so no changes there. So that leaves the fourth line. Jimmy Vesey's back in there. He's eligible to come off LTIR. The fourth line is now Edstrom, Sam Carrick, and Jimmy Vesey. Not bad. The bottom six for the Rangers this year has been a strength. It's been one of the big positives for them. I'm very pleased with their performance. If you want to get into positives, I know the Rangers are, they have a good record. They're 7-2-1. They're in a good spot. But to me, regular season performance isn't the tell all for me. The Rangers were the President's Trophy winners last year, but they were clearly outmatched by the Florida Panthers in the playoffs. So those insane 5-on-5 statistics I was talking about on last week's episode, the Rangers have tapered off in the past 3 games. And that is concerning because I really wish the Rangers could buy into that identity of being a good 5-on-5 team, a counterattacking team, and maintain that consistency throughout the season. I wish they could do that. If they can, I think there'll be a legit Stanley Cup contender. But if they continue to rely on goaltending, it's just going to be the same story it's been the last few seasons. And that's not good enough. I know they're playing well. I know the team results-wise is playing well, but you need to play better, and it's good to iron that out now rather than the end of the season. Now, defensively, it looks terrible over the last couple of games. I have the stats for Lindgren and Trouba. Terrible. I gotta pull it up on Natural Stat Trick, because it was just awful this last game. Pitiful, pitiful. So I'm gonna sort by the last game for the Rangers. Let's see here. We gotta put Jacob Trouba and Ryan Lindgren. You guys aren't ready for this. My gosh. Against Ottawa at 5-on-5, the Lindgren Trouba pair was outshot 2-12. 12 shots against, only 2 for. That is a 14.29 shots for percentage at 5-on-5. Scoring chances. They gave up 11 scoring chances. Only had 2. 15.38 scoring chance for percentage. One high danger chance against. But in one game, you give up double digit scoring chances and shots is not good. So, yeah, when you can't break the puck out, it's a recipe for disaster, and very indicative there last game. Um, so what did Peter Laviolette do? Threw the defensive pairings into a blender as well, and I'm very, very upset and frustrated by this. He went back to Lindgren and Fox, 55-23. That's the first pair. And he also went back to Miller and Schneider. No, no, not even that. Miller and Truba. That's your second pair, which we know doesn't work. And then the third pair, Zach Jones is back in there. Mancini's out. Jones and Schneider. I am so frustrated because the pairs, like the two other pairs that the Rangers had, Lindgren and Truba, terrible last night. Mancini and Schneider, terrible last night. Fox and Miller have been consistently great for the Rangers all season so far. Uh, I there's no other way to put it. Like we've complained about like Miller as on an individual level, and he went out and said that he needs to play better. But as a pair, man, they've been great. They've been great. Let's look at these stats here. I have them here. So at 5-on-5 all season in 10 games, the Miller Fox pair has played 100 almost 143 minutes. The shots are 87-51 in favor of them. That's a 63.04 shots for percentage, which is incredible. 7 goals for and 5 against. Expected goals for percentage is 66.8. Scoring chances. 99 scoring chances for and only 52 against. That's almost double the scoring chances that they're giving up. High danger chances. 45 for, 24 against. I mean, I just don't understand why this pair has to get tweaked. Is it because of the old adage that you can't pair two offensive minded defensemen together? You want to have a more physical guy with Fox, but that just anchors him. If you spend most of your time in the offensive zone, you don't have to worry about defense as much. At least that's how I look at it. Now, maybe I'm just an idiot, but when the Rangers are pinned in their own zone, they tend to just rely on the goaltender to get them out of situations. And I'd rather them not do that. I'd rather them spend more time in the offensive zone, maybe give up a chance here and there. And then you allow the goaltender to make you the save. But then you come right back up the ice and get a good scoring chance of your own to cancel out the one that you just gave out. I don't understand it. And I've gone on this show before. I've said that the Miller Trouba pair does not work. I've already talked about the statistics before. I'm not going to go over them again. This is just beating a dead horse. Very frustrated by this. Very. Um, but the Rangers still they're in a good spot results wise. But I'm telling you, if they don't make this change, if they don't get back to the way that they were playing three, 4 games ago, like against Montreal, if they don't get back into that habit, they're gonna go on a losing streak. And I don't have an ice cold take segment planned out for this episode, but that's my ice cold take is that if the Rangers don't get back to their 5-on-5 offensive greatness that they were at the first 7 games of the season, a losing streak like last year is coming soon. And we're all going to be here saying, what the hell happened? Hands in the air. We're not going to know what's going on, why the team is struggling all of a sudden. They need to get back to those ways. That's the only way they're going to be able to win the cup. That's another ice cold take. They have to play that way, not rely on goaltending. They can't do it. Can't do it. Yeah, you could have your goaltender make you a save when you really need it, but it cannot be for the entire game. It's a recipe for disaster. You're not gonna beat teams like Florida, Carolina, if Boston's good this year, Tampa Bay. Those teams have their stuff figured out. The Rangers need to do their job and figure out their own. And a big part of that comes down to Mika Zibanejad, who has yet to find his game. Now, I was watching back the game from last night against his former team in Ottawa. First period looked solid. Like I didn't have a problem with how they played from what I watched. They were getting good chances. Zibanejad was shooting the puck. He looked decisive out there. I think Joe Micheletti was talking about it as well on the broadcast. And I really thought his game against Montreal was going to be the starting point for his turnaround, but it just hasn't been that. Like the game against Washington was just really really bad. The whole team was bad, but man, they were invisible. His line, Zibanejad's line, was completely invisible against the Capitals. In fact, the last 2 games against the Capitals and Senators, when Zibanejad is on the ice at 5-on-5, the Rangers have been outshot 6-19, outscored 0-2. Scoring chances have been 5-14 in favor of the opposition, and high danger chances have been 3-6 in favor of the opposition. Not good. And that line, Kreider, Zibanejad, and Smith at 5-on-5 in the last 2 games has been outshot 5-12. Scoring chances have been 4-11 in favor of the opposition, and high danger chances have been 2-4. Not good enough. It's not good enough. I know it's early in the season, but you got to get on him now because we saw how it was last year. He ended the season with only 8 5-on-5 goals. For your number 1 center making $8.5 million, that is not nearly enough. The Rangers signed him to be a goal scorer. That's how he earned his money. That's what made him Zibanejad. That's what separated him from previous centers that we had. No one had been able to score 30, 40 goals as a center on the Rangers. Not in the 2013-14 run, not in the 14-15 run, not in the Tortorella years. Not Richards, no. It Zibanejad. 40 goals. He's a 40-goal scorer. And for some reason he can't put it together. I'm baffled. I'm baffled. I don't know what's going on here. Um, there was an article from Larry Brooks, which I'm going to read here, and it talks about Zibanejad's lack of ice time. So I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to read this article. I haven't checked this out, so you're getting my raw reaction here. So I thought this would be fun. Let me share my screen. Let's get this exclusive. Mika Zibanejad not thrilled with reduced Rangers minutes as Peter Laviolette tries to fulfill preseason pledge. Okay, so this came out October 29th. All right. There's been a steady drip, drip, drip in the ice time awarded to Mika Zibanejad and number 93's line, and the Swede doesn't have to look at the final score sheet to recognize that his shifts are somewhat farther and fewer between. You could feel it on the bench, Zibanejad told the Post following the morning skate in advance of Tuesday's match against the Capitals. I was averaging 20-plus minutes a few years ago, and I felt really good with that because you can find a better rhythm. Missing those extra 2 or 3 minutes, whatever it might be, you can try and create and feel like it's going to come, but it is what it is. Laviolette is using before today where he broke up the lines. He was using the third line, the Cooley, Ketel, Kakko line as like a second line. And he's been using the Zibanejad line. His utilage has been more of a third line for them. And I've said it before. That the way Zibanejad has been playing all of last season and then the start of this season, he's playing more like a shutdown third line center than he is a top line goal scoring center. and that's a problem. The Rangers need him to be a goal scorer, not a shutdown center. Let's continue with the article. Zibanejad's average ice time has dropped from a career high 21:38 and 19:20 to his current 18 minutes 15 seconds per following Saturday night's match against Anaheim, in which the center's 15:07 represented his fifth lowest allotment over the past 7 seasons. You're playing against Anaheim and you're not getting more ice time. You're not dominating them. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you're complaining about. It is theoretically possible that reducing the 31-year-old's minutes over the course of the 82-game marathon could produce residual benefits by keeping him fresher for the playoffs, where Zibanejad inevitably is matched against more physical opponents. Number 93, however, did not necessarily embrace the theory. I don't think anyone wants to play less, honestly, Zibanejad said. Head coach Peter Laviolette said that he is striving to fulfill a pledge he made during camp to spread ice time wealth beyond the top six so that more players are engaged. So, I mean, so far, it doesn't sound like Zibanejad is really saying too much to Brooksy. I don't know. Maybe it'll go on. So let me keep reading. That doesn't completely explain why the Chris Kreider, Zibanejad, Riley Smith unit has gotten less time at 5-on-5 than the Will Cooley, Filipino, Kako line 6 times over the first 8 matches, but raw numbers do fill in the blanks. For the Hedo line has combined for 8 goals while allowing none, scoring at a 6.03 clip per 60 with an expected goal ratio of 65.99%. The Zibanejad unit has been on for 3 goals scored and 3 against, scoring at 2.52 goals per 60 with an expected goals for of 44.08. Well, there you go. That answers the question there. The Hedo line is scoring more than the top line, what's supposed to be the top line. Yeah, you could argue that the Panarin line, because it's Panarin, he's the best forward on the Rangers, that's the first line. But Zibanejad is paid like a top center, and his line consistently falls behind other lines when it comes to goal scoring over the past couple seasons. Phil's line has been really good with regard to generating positive numbers, getting into the offensive zone, generating chances, but it's more trying to spread the bench out a little bit, said Laviolette, whose team brought a 6-1-1 mark into Tuesday's match. I think I said at the beginning of the year that my job was to find them more minutes, but the overall minutes don't all of a sudden change to keep everybody's minutes where they want. So some things have to come down. I don't think I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, said the coach. Mika's on the power play. He's on penalty killing. He's on 5-on-5. And that's exactly what I'm arguing with why, it's not a bad idea to put Kreider down on the third line because he'll be getting penalty killing and power play time. And I mean, I've said it too with Zibanejad as well. Like if you're gonna go with the Zibanejad as a 3C shutdown guy, I mean, it's not ideal, but it could work because he's still getting the power play time. We like to call him the power play merchant. He's a special teams guy. If only he were able to improve those 5-on-5 numbers, get back to not exactly the 1920 season, which was a ridiculous clip, and he's never come close to that, but somewhere slightly below there in the ballpark, that would be great for the Rangers. Not exactly 40 goals in 60 games pretty much, but, somewhere close. Give us something there, Zibanejad. Get back to this. Depending on how much less that could work against you, but getting minutes throughout your bench, which is what we're trying to do right now, I think it's important to find a positive impact from each line. It's difficult to keep somebody at 23 minutes if you're trying to bump Phil's time a little bit because he's playing well. So this is also difficult for Laviolette, but he knows that he needs to make this decision because I mean Hito's playing out of his mind right now. That entire unit has been great. I mean, that's a weapon. You can't just shelter them. You got to use them. You can't like I said, you can't shelter them. This is a great third line that the Rangers have. It should be the third line, but they're playing like a second line right now. I mean, before the line changes today at practice, but they were playing they were scoring like they're the second line. And they hadn't given up much either. Goes back to what I said about, Fox Miller. You spend more time in the offensive zone, that means you're spending less time in your own end. That's a good thing. It's also difficult if Zibanejad and his line are not playing particularly well. Kreider scored a 5-on-5 in the opener. Smith has scored twice in game 3 against the Red Wings and in game 6 in Montreal, once with the mixed combination. Zibanejad also scored in the game in Montreal on October 22nd, and that was the game that I was talking about before, that I thought Zibanejad had picked up his game. That was gonna be the start of him getting back to the way that he was, where he would be a decisive player and shoot the puck more, be the finisher, which is what he needs to be on that line. The line has not yet declared an identity. This is a problem here. They're not yet either a puck possession trio or a rush-oriented conglomerate. The 3 cerebral forwards are trying to figure it out. And yeah, I think the time to figure that out is right now. So, like, that's not the biggest issue in the world. Just you gotta figure it out by the end of the season. You can't do what you did last year and keep them together the entirety and not have them not figure out who they are. The Rangers have done that before as a team, and they did it last year with that line. They can't do it again. I mean, a rush from defense to offense, like transition. I mean, it fits into what I was saying about how the Rangers should be a counterattack team, and I mean that goes into Zibanejad's play style. You know, he's seems like he's going for to focus on that defensive aspect of the game, be more of a two-way center, then go back to your normal offense where you like a goal scorer, where you shoot the puck past the goaltender. You got to combine both of those attributes there. Back to the article here. I think there's some good things, but other things we're still working on, Zibanejad said. We haven't had one of those games where everything goes in. The other night against Anaheim is a good example. We had good chances in the first, but we didn't score. You try to stay positive because that can give you energy. But at some point, we need some of those pucks to go in. I didn't necessarily warn about this, but I said we might not get results right away when we are still learning each other. There are a lot of good intentions. We're trying to do the right thing. We're also getting more D zone draws, and it's a little harder to score. Trying to go 180 feet. So there are different aspects to it. I think it's been a decent start, and it's getting better. We all want it to work. Remember when Gerard Gallant had the conversation with Philip Hedl a couple of seasons ago in the playoffs, and he said he wanted Hedl to play like Zibanejad? Well, I think we could do the opposite now. We could say the opposite because, I mean, Kako and Hedl have been guys that have constantly had scoring chances, great opportunities to score. They've been the kings at getting the opportunities, but never finishing. I mean, you could throw Lafreniere in there too, but the difference is those guys stayed the course, and now the results are paying off for them. Look at how Kako has played this season. He's been great. Another one of those positives is Capo Kako. He might not be the guy that Rangers fans expected him to be when he was drafted second overall, but he's finally filled out a role and he looks comfortable doing it. This was an issue for the Rangers last year, depth scoring. They're finally providing it. And when you stay the course, I mean, that's what you got to do. You can't just, throw up your hand, shrug your shoulders and say, "Oh, well, what are you going to do?" You got to keep trying. Eventually it's going to go in, but you have to keep playing the way that you need to play. So this woe is me mindset. We had good chances in the first, but we didn't score. You should just try and just be positive. Just don't even think about it as a negative. Just think, all right, it's gonna go in. It's gonna go in. We just gotta keep playing like that. If you feel like you played a good period, then carry that over into the next period or the next game, even the next shift. That's gonna that's gonna get you over the top there. So take a page out of that those two players, Hedel and Kako Zibanejad, and I think things will start to work out. I'm optimist. I'm an optimist, so that's how I work. Maybe other people will disagree with me on that, But that's what I think. I think that if you stay the course, if you think you're playing well, then keep up that play, and eventually something will crack. But I mean, the last couple games after that Anaheim game have been worrisome. Now you have to get back to the way you were playing against Anaheim, against Montreal, and you have to make that a habit. Back to the article. Laviolette and the staff are spreading the wealth and rewarding the hot hand. That, by the way, has not belonged to Zibanejad. A tad much to the outside, a tad late. I think they wanted to find more impact offensively inside the game, said the coach. They often draw tougher matchups. They draw more D zone starts, but I think they're still working to try to become more impactful. I like the way we roll over the boards. The line has been good. They're all students of the game and want to be better. They're looking for more. They're searching for more. Maybe a bit more ice time too. All right. So that last part, the D zone starts. This is where I feel like Zibanejad would benefit if he bought into the transition game a little bit more. Because if you're starting in the defensive zone, you got to prioritize making a quick stop so that you could get the puck up to the other end of the ice, so you could, I don't know, either cycle or get a good chance off the rush. I'd be more, depending on who the defensemen are. If Miller and Fox are out there, then yeah, you could cycle it. But if you're out there with Lindgren and Truba, screw them. Go to the net, get Kreider in there, get like a odd man rush or something. Remember when Zibanejad used to do the fake shot, the fake pass on a 2-on-1 with Kreider? That was prime Zibanejad. Where is that guy? That's what the Rangers are missing, and that's a big issue there. The guy from Liberty Blue podcast did a great breakdown of Mika's analytics, Panarin and Lafreniere with Mika. Yeah, the Liberty Blue guys are good guys. Good guys on that show. They do good work there. But yeah, the Rangers are going to go as far as Zibanejad can take them. I mean, that 1920 season was special, and it's hard to like expect him to repeat that performance because we know he's not a throughout his career, he's not the best 5-on-5 player. He's not a play driver. Buchnevich was the play driver. More and more with each passing game, I realized what a mistake it was to get rid of Buchnevich. But there's nothing that can be done about it now. It's time to move on. And you have to work with what you have right now. There are no outside sources. There's no outside magic golden button that's going to fix everything. Zibanejad has to find a way to be some version of the player he was in 2019-20. Even the 22-23 season where he scored 39 goals. That would work. 5-on-5 scoring for him. You can't have another season where it's 8 5-on-5 goals. Recipe for disaster, man. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the Rangers going forward. Uh, like I said, I'm very frustrated again with the decision to break up Miller and Fox as defensive pairing because that was the only one that was working. All the other ones weren't. I like that Jones is back in there. I like that the Kreider Zibanejad line is completely broken up, or maybe not entirely thrilled that the third line, the Cooley Hito Kako line, is broken up. But I like that Laviolette is, breaking up the Zibanejad line, and it's early in the season too. We'll see what happens, how they play against the Islanders. They just got a win against the Sabres, but they've had like a pretty rough start to their season. So what are we gonna get? Are we gonna get a dogfight, or are we gonna get the Rangers come out firing on all cylinders tomorrow afternoon against the Islanders? We'll see what happens. But anyways, I'm gonna wrap this episode up. Thank you for listening. I'll see you guys next time.